Join Duggan, Remax Boulder Video Podcast. Today we have Todd Gullette. Todd is the managing broker at Remax Boulder. Glad to have you here today, Todd. Todd manages a little over 100 agents here at Remax Boulder, so he has the privilege of watching all the market activity and having his finger on the pulse in the marketplace. So we're interested to see what Todd has to say today. The last few months have been very interesting in the whole world, let alone the real estate market. So we're going to get a brief update from Todd on what's going on out there. So Todd, what's going on in the local real estate market?
Yeah, thanks, Duane.
Love your mask, by the way.
Thank you. I think yours looks good too. We got matching masks. It's the style nowadays. So we had a lot to get used to, a lot of changes in our marketplace and our lives. Obviously,
Right.
no handshakes today for us, but yeah, I think it's really interesting what's happening in our local market.
I guess we should say this is our first day in the office.
This is our first day in the office.
So it's pretty different. So
yeah, it's going to be some more challenges throughout the year, and we'll just kind of brace for those as we go along. But for now, it's kind of fun out there. We're hearing some signs of multiple offers again, and to go from kind of the dregs of the market to hearing stories of multiple offers is really interesting, and it's fun. It's fun for us to know that there's some signs of normalcy just on a personal note. So our prices have remained fairly stable. We lost about 1.3% on the median from the shutdown, and then our average suffered about 9% of a price change. But I think our high-end buyers are still a little hesitant to jump right back in the market. So I think that's why we're going to see that lag a little bit longer before we see that 9% increase back up to somewhat more of a normal price. But it is good to know that that's out there if you're planning on listing a house.
So did the market shut down totally when couldn't allow showings? What kind of happened as far as getting existing business closed?
Yeah, it really was difficult. There wasn't a total shutdown. We still had a lot of buyers wanting to buy. We still had a lot of sellers who had planned on this time to sell for different reasons. And I also think that when people were, maybe looking at a potential job loss or a movement of a job, people had to chase jobs too during this time. And I think that spurred on some demand. And it was really difficult for us to satisfy that demand, not being able to show properties. So we had to get pretty creative on how we followed the rules.
Closings still happen. Title companies made adjustments on how to close. The softening of the notary rules, I think, helped a little bit, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, right off the bat, we had some people who were falling out of contract. They were backing out because of COVID related worries, but that I think quickly was remedied, and the marketplace figured out a way to get them closed. We even had sight unseen offers, and before closing, during their due diligence, they'd go look at the home, and it worked for them. And so, yeah, creativity, and we got it to make it happen, especially for the people that needed to make it happen.
Right.
We forget sometimes that, the marketplace, it's not just about making money. It's really about, some people need to move.
Right.
Some people lose their job, or they really need something, and so it's nice to be able to come through for them.
That's fantastic. So what's the future hold the next month?
Well, I tend to look at the percent under contract and the amount of inventory. So if you're looking at a low amount of inventory and a high percentage of those under contract, it's hard to tell how deep your bench is, how much of the market is really there. And so right now we have about 10 to 20% more inventory than we did prior to the COVID time period, and we've also we've got about a 10% drop in our percentage of under contract. So we went from 51% in Boulder County down to 41%. Now maybe that's up to 42 or 43% under contract. And that bodes well. With more inventory and more percentage of those under contract, what we're looking at in June and into July is more closings. So
fantastic.
In our office, we're on pace right now with the number of closings or contracts written per week. We're on pace a little bit higher than that from last year.
Okay. How about inventory increase or surge of listings, like when we got the release to at least show houses with certain restrictions? Was there a surge of new inventory during that next 2 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people were holding off,
Uh-huh.
wanting to wait for the most opportune time to put their house on the market where it could be seen by the most people at once, and that's exactly what happened. And there were a lot of people waiting to put their home on the market, and a big buyer market. That's why we saw more homes on the market, but multiple offers on those homes when they arrived.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the next few months, like beyond just, June, what do you think the outlook is for the rest of the year?
Well, I'm fairly positive.
Okay.
I feel like we are going to have a surge, this pent-up demand, if you will, of people that had to wait for COVID to kind of run its cycle. And so I think there's a really good indication there's a strong market. Lawrence Yun, the chief economist at NAR, has upgraded his position based on the numbers they're seeing. Their outlook has improved. Smart Assets pits Colorado against the rest of, and the city of Boulder, county of Boulder against the rest of the country. And we're ranked number one in growth and stability. So it's times like this where we really feel the stability part of that. Not so much the growth, but just the stability of jobs. So I'm fairly bullish on what comes next. I will say that no one knows what the real impact of the job loss is going to be in Colorado. I think we're hovering around 500,000 job loss, unemployment in Colorado right now, which is pretty unprecedented. So we're going to have to see whether those folks get back to work. There's this idea that some folks are actually gainfully unemployed right now.
Right, making more on unemployment than they were at their job.
Yeah, right? Making a little more than they were at work. So I think that there's a great opportunity for those jobs to open and these folks to jump back into work without suffering catastrophic loss. And that would bode well. We'll just have to see how that goes. So confidence towards the end of the summer, whether we peak with another outbreak of COVID. If we have another break, that's going to be detrimental to the marketplace. But so far, there seems to be a good market. I'm pretty bullish on that, and of course, we'll have to see if something changes.
Okay, and just real quickly for people that are thinking of entering in the market, what would a buyer expect to go look at a house today when they're working with an agent? What kind of precautions are being made to protect everybody as they get out there?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty good requirement now by the state, and different counties have their rules that lay on top of what the state requires. But right now, you should be, being respectful, and you should be using the best care for the person who lives there and the other people that may share that space of that home. So, you'd expect to wear a mask. Everybody would expect to wear a mask. And wiping things down. Most of the time, the request is that you shouldn't touch anything when you're in the house. That's really important. You can go through a house without touching anything. Well, some people can.
Except maybe the front door.
There's some people, they can't quite, figure that out. But the agent, if you have, a Clorox wipe or something like that, you can wipe down the doorknob that you enter the home with and the lockbox. Your buyer, and if you're buying, you should be able to go through a house without, touching the cellar stuff. The door should be open. The sellers are good about leaving the lights on right now, so you shouldn't have to really manually, do things in the house. So that's what you should expect. And one of the best practices we're seeing right now is seeing less homes. A lot of people used to tour homes as kind of as a hobby.
Right.
And now you find of the 8 you really like, you really know there's only 3 you could buy. You kind of want to see the other ones just because you feel like you need
to see those online now. So.
Right, yeah, the pictures are so good now, and our due diligence can be done online and look at who has a busy road and the views and things like that. So for the most part, we're seeing 2 or 3 properties when we go out as opposed to 6 or 8,
right.
which is really vigilant. I think it's appreciated.
So I think the recovery of the market, which seems to be happening, is due in part that people can go look at real estate with precautions, is the bottom line.
Yeah, and we don't want to ruin that. So we want to honor that
really
part of the system. We want to honor those rules so we can be good stewards for our industry and make sure that if changes or restrictions need to be made or met, that they look at how real estate's being done and they know that we're doing our best out there.
Okay. Well, Todd, thanks for being with us today. And I think if we touch base a month from now, it'll be really interesting to see how the market's evolved another 30 days down the road. So thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Remax of Boulder video podcast, Duane Duggan and Todd Gullette signing off.